Happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. My name is Jack from Cultaholic.com, and it's time to talk about a little bit more wrestling news. We already have one news video out on the channel already, thanks to Tom, so check that out if you haven't. But now we're going to talk about even more. So without any further ado, let's take a look at those lovely headlines. First of all, a released WWE Superstar has shared their creative frustrations with the company. Next up, AJ Styles has heavily criticized Paul Heyman. And finally, Stephanie McMahon has revealed an unusual addition to the Performance Center tapings. So first of all, yes, let's talk about that recently released WWE Superstar who has been revealing a little bit in sort of Jon Moxley fashion about his frustrations behind the scenes. And this time around, it's Eric Young. Now, we saw Eric Young recently return to Impact Wrestling at Slammiversary. He was one of the mystery competitors in that main event match for the vacant championship. The other mystery competitor was Rich Swann, which was a bit of a letdown because he's already with the company, but we'll let that go. And the long and short of it was that Eric Young did not win the Impact World Championship. However, I'm sure he'll still be in the mix going forwards. Well, recently Eric Young was speaking to Busted Open Radio about his time in WWE and vented some frustrations basically, and it's kind of hard to blame him for doing so because if you remember, Eric Young was the leader of Sanity. Sanity were great in NXT, and I know we always say, oh, when people get called up from NXT, it all goes wrong, they get wasted, but I struggle to think of a more obvious example of somebody who was just really underused upon moving to the main roster than Eric Young. I think he could be the biggest example of that. So yes, speaking to Busted Open Radio, he said, sometimes you fall out of favor. It's not what you did or didn't do. I never changed who I was and I'm not going to. I'm not a political person. It's hard to get a word in. The system is broken. So he's saying it's not really what you do. Sometimes you just fall out of favor and there's nothing you can do about it. He also spoke about the WWE style, saying there's no creativity, everyone wants to be the same, bump the same, sell the same, and there's millions of rules which change daily. It's really hard to understand what's going on. The system is flawed, and I would say to anyone there, and Vince himself, that it is. I'm not the first person he's made a mistake on, and I won't be the last person he's made a mistake on. But Young was keen to stress that it's not something personal. It is very much, in his mind, a systematic problem with WWE. It's the way things are ran, it's the rules, it's the kind of the way everyone's encouraged to be the same. That is the problem, and it causes people to get lost in the shuffle, talented people quite often. He said, I don't think it's anything personal. Anytime him and Vince, were in a room together and we spoke, he was always respectful. We had 2 decently long conversations, they went well, and I thought he understood where I was coming from. But I'm a man and I'm not going to stand in a hallway for 4 hours to talk to him. That could be wrong and stubborn on my part, but I'm a 40-year-old man and I'm not going to wait in the hallway like a child to get maybe 5 minutes to talk to him. Eric closed his thoughts by saying basically that they missed their chance with him. They said, you have a 3-hour television show. If you can't find 5 minutes for Eric Young, your show is broken. Now, to those unfamiliar with Eric Young's time outside of WWE, that may sound a little bit arrogant, a little bit presuming that he's better than he is, because to people who've just seen him through the lens of WWE, Eric Young was the leader of Sanity, not even really portrayed as the most important member of Sanity quite often. In fact, that became Nikki Cross quite quickly, and then did very little after that. So people might be thinking, why would Eric Young be thinking so highly of himself? Why did he deserve more of a prominent place on the show? But I have to say that if you watched him in Impact Wrestling during his original time there, he was great. He was versatile. He could do comedy. He could do serious. He was kind of there like Daniel Bryan at one point as well, like this huge underdog who won it all. He's a great tag team wrestler as well. I think he was he was in Team Canada alongside Bobby Roode. He was very much someone in Impact who could do pretty much everything back in the day. And I think that's what he means by saying that if you can't find 5 minutes for Eric Young, then you've made a mistake, because I don't think he's saying I deserve to be the top star. If you can't find time for me, what are you doing? I think he's saying I can do lots of different things, and you know, you've got a 3-hour show, I can fit in somewhere. Anyway, moving on now from Eric Young to somebody who is still with WWE, but could be leaving, but might not be, but WWE don't want her to, but she might be, but I don't know what's going on. The Kairi Sane saga rumbles on. So Kairi Sane, I think, as we know by now, is moving back to Japan, but WWE are very keen, apparently, to keep her on the payroll. This comes from Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful, who says that WWE has made a big effort to retain Kairi Sane and pitched several ideas to keep her on the payroll, and more specifically, to keep her away from other companies. He also says that many of these ideas included her returning to Japan to work in a variety of capacities, from an ambassador to a trainer. So it seems like WWE here are really keen on not letting Kairi Sane go anywhere else. I don't know whether that means somewhere in Japan, back to Stardom, or maybe does it mean to one of their competitors like AEW or Impact in North America. I'm not quite certain why they're so keen on it, but it is very interesting. Kairi was, of course, in action on this week's Monday Night Raw, where she defeated Bayley in a non-title match, but that's huge because Bayley is, of course, the SmackDown Women's Champion. She will apparently also be on next week's show, because during the tapings for this week's and next week's episodes of Raw, Kairi was there. So we assume that she's also going to be on next week's episode. Next up, everything's gone a bit crazy in New Japan, hasn't it? For those of you who've missed what's been going on, right? So New Japan came back, they started even having fans at the shows. Evil won the New Japan Cup. He beat Kazuchika Okada in the final with the help of Bullet Club's Yujiro Takahashi, which was weird because Evil's in LIJ. Evil went on to meet his stablemate, his stable leader, Tetsuya Naito, in the final, and beat him by cheating with the help of Dick Togo, of all people. And Evil revealed that I'm a member of the Bullet Club, and Evil's the double champion now. He's the double champion, and Naito's reign ended. It's over, despite being built up so much. So that's weird. Kazuchika Okada, the ace of New Japan Pro Wrestling, has really, and one of the best wrestlers in the world, I'll have you know, has been talking about this to Tokyo Sports. Let's see what he's got to say, implying that New Japan's current heavyweight championship isn't the strongest it could be right now. Now, it seems very unusual at first for like the biggest star of a promotion to be saying, I don't think our world championship is as important as it could be, but we'll see what he's got to say. He says that, I felt that the value of the heavyweight title was halved when those two titles were won together, when Naito won them both at Wrestle Kingdom. And that's why if Naito, who won the Double Crown first, was able to show something, he should have shown it. I lost because I couldn't do it, but the biggest prize in the industry, the IWGP Heavyweight, seems to be far from its ideal. I don't mean to complain, I think there's a different way to create excitement. So very strange there from Okada, very honest as well, to be saying, you know what, I don't think the belt, I don't think it seems that important right now, despite it supposedly being one of the most prestigious in the world of wrestling. And I think there could be two reasons for this. One, it could be seen as a bit of political maneuvering, couldn't it? It could be seen as him saying, like, when I'm not the champion, the belt really isn't as important as it could be. They should put the belt back on me, and I should be the top dog once again. But also, in fairness to Okada, I really don't think it's that unusual for wrestlers in New Japan to be quite outspoken about otherwise controversial things in this way. For example, in the build-up to Kenny Omega's last match against Hiroshi Tanahashi 2 years ago now, was it 2 years ago? 1.5 years ago now? They talked very openly about the flaws in each other's wrestling style. Not even them as kayfabe competitors, the way they put matches together in the ring. Or Tanahashi did it years ago with Naito again, saying, you know, he's the challenger for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I don't think that's a very big match. My Intercontinental Championship match with Shinsuke Nakamura is more important. And he just ran down Naito. And then obviously Naito's match got bumped from the top spot, and that led to Naito's heel turn and Naito as we know him today. If you're not a fan of New Japan, not much of that will have made sense. So I'll just summarize the story now. Okada, the best wrestler in New Japan, is not the champion at the minute and says the belt is a bit less important than it should be. Next up, I don't know how to introduce this bit, just AJ Styles has absolutely laid into Paul Heyman on his Twitch channel. AJ is talking about why he went to SmackDown, because apparently he saw an opportunity to go to SmackDown and went, I'll have that, thank you very much. It wasn't just a decision made against his whim, he very much was in favour of going to the Blue Brand. And in answering this question, AJ said, the reason why I went to SmackDown was because I couldn't stand looking at him being Paul Heyman. I just can't stand a liar. I'm a grown man, you're a grown man, why lie? You didn't even have to say anything, so I just couldn't stand to look at him, and I was just like, well, you know, if and when the opportunity for SmackDown is available, I can't be around Paul Heyman. He also said, I talked to a lot of guys about this situation and you wouldn't believe how many people I worked with that despised this guy because of his lies, and he'd find ways to throw them under the bus when he screwed up. He would throw them under the bus so they would get in trouble. He goes on saying, I heard this from several different people. It was almost kind of hard to find somebody who liked Paul Heyman. And I didn't know this, I just assumed everybody liked him and I was the only one. But I think the reason why Vince is a very smart man and he can see through a lot of crap, and I think he finally saw what everybody already knew, is because he said, you know what, man, you've done some great things in the past, but you're just not well liked here. Maybe hit the bricks and we'll let you be the advocate for Brock Lesnar. That's incredibly outspoken from AJ Styles. And unless this leads to a sudden feud with Brock Lesnar, which I really don't think it's going to, but hey, it could do, then it's probably true as well. And this comes, not coincidentally, I should probably add, so soon after Gallows and Anderson also kind of tore Heyman to shreds a little bit in their recent podcast. That's because Gallows, Anderson and AJ are all friends, of course, and, you know, I guess AJ didn't take too kindly to Heyman, in their words, lying to his boys, and feels like he's been lied to himself. So, wow, AJ there being very, very critical of Paul Heyman, and we'll see if anything else is said about it. I really don't know. He's certainly not the first wrestler to call Paul Heyman a liar. And finally, Sean Ross Sapp was part of a call with Stephanie McMahon just yesterday, I believe, and was tweeting out some things that she was revealing or things that she was saying. And Stephanie suddenly is back on the scene as well, because she appeared on Raw, of course, on the Tron to sort out the whole Raw Women's Championship situation, excuse me. And I just think that, you know, it's kind of refreshing to see and hear from Steph again, isn't it? Do you agree? Don't leave your opinions in the comments down below. But one of the more out-of-the-box things that Sean Ross Sapp said about Stephanie, or reported that she'd said on Twitter, was the following. Stephanie McMahon says they've added a virtual ceiling at the Performance Center because the fans haven't looked good. Not the fans, not the ringside, not the people, the fans on the ceiling. And honestly, well, two things. I'm intrigued to see what this virtual ceiling looks like. Can't wait to see if it looks good or bad, because if it looks bad, then, well, hilarious times. Ross will have a field day. But if it looks good, then that's cool, and I'll be very impressed. But the second thing is, I don't agree. I kind of like the fans. I think it gave it a bit of an industrial feel. It made it feel like, you know, oh, this is real, this is actually happening. Do you agree? I thought the fans were actually quite a good little touch. It will be a shame to see them go, actually. You know what? I'm really passionate about these fans. Don't get rid of them. Hashtag keep the fans is what I'm going to say here. What's with this virtual ceiling? I don't think it needs to happen. Anyway, we'll look out for that in future episodes of WWE's various different brands or pay-per-views or whatever. I'm not happy. So ending this news on a down note, unfortunately. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Stay safe out there, stay positive, and I'll see you very soon.